Hey everybody, welcome back to A Brief on Grief. Um, Today I want to talk about, something is very important, and something that definitely all of us humans can relate to. The grief, so that all the different emotions that are involved in when you drift apart from somebody in a relationship, or you end up feeling just not as aligned as you once were. This is something that I can resonate with deeply right now. With a few relationships in my life over this year, I've had that feeling and been processing some of the feelings related to that. So, and it can kind of be a wild ride, because if you're left without knowing the truth of it, we can make up stories. So we can make up stories that it means something personal about us. We can make up stories about the other person. We can hold different feelings like anger and resentment. We can get into that horrible toxic habit that we do as human beings when I'm trying to think of, this is a whole other topic that I might want to make another video on, but the pain that we experience from different relationships in our lives where we either felt like we were not enough, we got the perception that we were not enough, or that we were being too much or too needy or wanting too much or whatever. So it's the one side of the spectrum or the other, and there's so much pain in those feelings. And I know that every human being can experience those different dynamics and the pain and the grief of that different dynamics in relationship and feeling that. And from that history of feeling either not enough or too much, we tend to settle for good enough sometimes. Not meaning that good enough is, not meaning that that's not a judgment to the person that we're in a relationship with, but it can be a settling point of good enough when we know that we desire deeply more. But it's really vulnerable to desire more, and it's even more vulnerable to speak that we desire more, and to have honest and open conversations with somebody that we may be drifting apart from, about this. But so yes, so if you're feeling like you're drifting apart from a certain person in your life or people in your life, and you're feeling a lot of emotions, if you're feeling judgment towards yourself and judgment towards the other person, or you're kind of telling yourself, oh, well, it doesn't matter, and just letting it fade away. Little secret, it does matter. It matters to your heart, even if you don't feel it very much. It does matter to your heart, and it matters to the other person. And in one particular relationship and friendship in my life this year, I've been reflecting a lot on it the last couple of months, and really knowing that I wanted to do it differently. I've known for the last couple of years, and I've been practicing in my life, that I didn't want drifting to be okay. Drifting, yes, it happens and it is okay, but I didn't want to just let it I didn't want to just let things peter out and die out like I had let before and had some of the emotions related to that. I wanted to do it in a more authentic, honest way. So I knew that I wanted to do that in this specific relationship. But just the vulnerability of having that conversation is wild, right? So I'm sure some of you out there have had like some vulnerable conversations with people and friendships and stuff that may have been changing. Maybe you don't see the person as much, or maybe you're not aligned as anymore, or you're just drifting and you don't really know why. And then you both likely make up stories in your head about it. And I'm finding that the stories and the emotions that come with it, they do so much pain, and it's really not necessary. Yes, it's normal and natural to feel the emotions of grief when relationships change and shift, but the added suffering of the stories and things that we make up is not necessary. And I'm realizing the way that we shift those stories and the way that we stop needing to make stories is to find out the actual truth. But that involves a vulnerable conversation. And if I know some of you guys, the why vulnerable conversations and honest communication about asking somebody about behaviors or shifts in a relationship and having a conversation about that, that can feel hard because all of us, including myself, have had conversations like that in relationships where it hasn't gone well, right? Where we tried to have the best intention going in, and maybe we got flooded with emotions or the other person got flooded with emotions, and it ended up being like a blame game or an attack or somebody shutting down or a storm off or any of those multiple things that we do as humans when we feel attacked or when we feel scared or vulnerable. So it can be scary to go into a conversation like this. But I was kind of putting myself deeply in my heart the last few weeks and knowing like, I'm afraid of this. It's vulnerable, from things in the past, but there's a good history with this person for me to trust that it will go well, right? That we'll be able to keep our hearts open. And that's truly like I'm coming directly out of the bubble bath. My hair is wet and everything because this is so strong in me right now. I wanted to just speak. I just wanted to talk and create a video on this because the power, like this, what I'm feeling right now is the truth. I had this difficult, or not difficult, I had this vulnerable, scary, perceived scary conversation with a friend just very recently. And it was magnificent. It was the exact opposite of the worst fear, right? The exact opposite of the worst scenarios from my past. It was open, it was honest, it was vulnerable, it was respectful, it was loving, it just was everything that I could have ever wished for. And it was a reminder. So I've been deeply grounding it in my body and just savoring the feeling in my nervous system, because I see this as a priceless example of what the truth actually is. The truth behind everything, the truth behind true connection, the truth behind true intimacy, what's actually possible when two people are able to come together with their heart open, to be vulnerable, to be honest, to apologize, take ownership for their parts, different parts in it, to acknowledge each other's truth, even if we're different, to celebrate something that might be going on in somebody's life, even though it may be contributing to a change in the relationship, all these kind of things, to just be in a space with somebody and do that. It's just, that is what is possible. That is the truth. And that's the deep truth that I've always known, of the deep intimacy and connection that I know is the truth and what is possible for us human beings and in our relationships. And this is deeply always my intention moving forward. It has been for years, which is why it's shaken everything in my life up and my relationships up, because I'm realizing that good enough is not enough anymore. And that I know deeply what actually is the truth. And I don't have to be afraid of repeating the past. Yes, I'm still going to be afraid of it, but that fear doesn't have to stop me from honestly and vulnerably showing up and inviting an honest conversation about something, and without just letting it go because that's the easiest thing to do, or the easiest thing to do. We think it's the easiest thing to do, but it's the hardest on our heart, and it leaves the most incomplete feeling and incomplete emotions in our hearts and our bodies when we leave things unknown or leave it up to the stories in our head to tell us the truth. This is the truth. The truth is you can sit and invite in and welcome in and co-create honest, vulnerable conversations about hard things, about change and loss in relationships, about one person changing and the other not, about one person wanting one thing and the other person wanting something different, about having different values for what you want in intimacy, for all the kinds of differences. We're supposed to be able to talk about this stuff. We're supposed to be able to honor and love each other even in our differences. This is the kind of connection and intimacy I want. This is the only kind that I want. This is the only kind that I will show up in fully with my heart in for. And I'm getting a deep reminder of what the actual truth is. This is the only truth that matters. So even within the grief that happens when relationships change and we drift apart, the truth is that it's never personal about either person. No person is wrong, no person is right, no person's the villain, no person is it is always the truth to come together and share and find out what each other's truths are. It's not about blaming or shaming each other. It's always just about finding what's going on and having an honest, loving conversation about it. That's the truth. So even within the pain, we can get to the truth and we can come back to love. And that's everything and the only thing that matters. Okay, see you next time. Bye.